So today I'm going to take a look at this article here from News Punch. So this is only a day or so old. So they're saying that the World Economic Forum announced the recruitment of information warriors to control the narrative on social media. Now I don't know if information warriors that's in quotes there is a genuine quote or whether it's something that they put in scare quotes effectively. Now, controlling the narrative is clearly their particular spin on it, although there may well be truth in that. And if we look here, so it's a fairly small article, and the first paragraph here just says that the World Economic Forum has announced that it's recruited hundreds of thousands of these information warriors to control the internet, police social media and forums for misinformation and conspiracy content. So I actually dug out where this seems to come from, and it appears to be old news. So we can actually see on the World Economic Forum website here, there's a piece from November 2020, and it says there's no vaccine for the infodemic, so how can we combat the virus of misinformation? So it's talking here about how misinformation has spread during the pandemic. Now I'm sure it has, but it's worth remembering that misinformation is just information that is incorrect, and therefore everybody is kind of prone to doing that, given that nobody is infallible. And that actually not just includes your average Joe on the internet who may actually be spreading information that is incorrect, kind of knowingly, well in that case would be disinformation or unknowingly. But it can also include scientists, doctors, public health officials, people from governments, or even people from the World Economic Forum itself, which we'll see soon. So there's various bits of detail in here about what they're concerned about and what they're doing. So we can see here, this is clearly what the News Punch article is referring to. It says, so far we've recruited 110,000 information volunteers, and that we equip them with the kind of knowledge about misinformation spreads and ask them to serve as a kind of digital first responder. So that's quite interesting, because I don't know whether these volunteers are actually just posting on the internet under their own names, or whether they're actually identifying themselves as volunteers for the World Economic Forum. Now, I guess it doesn't really matter per se, given that the important thing is the information itself. But as soon as they're talking about misinformation, if we go over to YouTube, is a video here by Klaus Schwab, who's the executive chairman and I believe founder of the World Economic Forum. Now he does sort of unfortunately look a bit like a James Bond villain, although I'm sure he doesn't see himself as having nefarious aims to control the world. But there are certainly people who disagree with what the kind of ideas that the World Economic Forum is trying to put into place. It's certainly true that this forum has a lot of influence. They have an annual meeting, I believe, in Davos, where the kind of people who are attending are rich people, other people with influence, politicians, ministers, presidents, that kind of thing. And I know that Klaus Schwab has actually talked about how they being the World Economic Forum, penetrate the cabinets. So they clearly feel that they've got a fair amount of influence on governments around the world. So this video is about 50 seconds long, which you can look at yourself. I won't play it now. It seems to be aimed at people of a certain generation. If I'm not misremembering this, I think it was aimed at, I think it mentions millennials and Generation Z, and it's essentially about vaccine equity in the light of COVID. Now, one thing he says in this video, which you can actually see quoted here in the text of the video, is that nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated. Now, I don't know when this video actually originates from. I don't think the person who posted it is the original owner of it, but even when the vaccines for COVID first came out, we knew that they weren't sterilising, and therefore they didn't actually prevent transmission. And certainly, experience from them has shown that effectiveness against transmission wanes quite considerably. So, I mean, clearly he doesn't define what he means by safe, but given that the vaccines aren't sterilising, then it is definitely wrong to say that nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated. And it's also worth bearing in mind that actually for most people, COVID, even with the original Alpha and Delta variants, which were more deadly, for most people, they were safe. At most, you would have some kind of cold or flu-like symptoms. It's only a certain small percentage that would suffer serious illness or even death. And certainly now with Omicron, the risk of severe disease, even if you're unvaccinated, is significantly lower. Now, in the video, he does also talk about future pandemics, but I'm pretty sure the vaccine here he's referring to must be for COVID, because certainly future pandemics, we will not know at this stage what the efficacy of any future vaccines would be. So it's kind of interesting there that the World Economic Forum are concerned about misinformation, but their top guy is spreading misinformation as well. And it's also questionable about whether they're information volunteers, whether they would actually be impartial. Would they also be looking at misinformation that is spread by by governments, people in governments, public health officials, doctors, scientists? Because there's certainly been misinformation on all sides.